We looked at this figure in a previous video, and I want to bring it out again. There's not really anything you need to write on it, but we will look at it quite often because we want to put all of the work we're going to do in a general context for how everything fits together. Right now, we're interested in carbohydrate metabolism, and that's going to be this central area right here. Let's remind you that glucose is a hexose, and so we're putting down the term hexose as a general term for glucose and galactose and fructose and things like that. Now, these sugars can come from stuff in our diet that is actually sugar, like sucrose or glucose itself, or it can come from polysaccharides, such as the starches in our diet from plants, and also from glycogen in our own body. Those are our short-term storage forms of glucose, and we can liberate them. We'll talk about that more in the next chapter. But when we take glucose as a hexose or any other sugar, we're going to go through the process of glycolysis and make it into pyruvate. So this entire chapter is basically going to be this arrow right here, from glucose to pyruvate. So let's move on to this first page where we do our chapter goals, and let's talk about what those chapter goals are. First, we are going to ask, how does glycolysis produce ATP? We know that ATP is our energy currency, or one of the energy currencies we use for other processes, and so we need to know where it comes from. Second of all, we're going to ask, how does fermentation allow glycolysis to continue in the absence of oxygen? Let's not worry about that second one right now. We're going to spend almost the entire chapter talking about the first goal. Now, here is the glycolysis pathway in all its glory. And like I said, we're going to start up here with glucose, D-glucose, and we're going to end up down here with a molecule called pyruvate. That's these ones right here. These two molecules down here are going to be involved with fermentation, so we'll skip that for now. There are 10 reactions in this pathway. You can see that some of them are double directional, meaning reversible, and some of them are single directional, meaning non-reversible. That's something we'll get on into the next chapter. Let's go ahead and state out the goals of glycolysis in any cell, and we can do so in a very simple way. Glycolysis makes 2 ATP quickly. So we can summarize things very succinctly here. We're going to make 2 ATP, so the 2 is an important part here. That's a very low yield. It's kind of like saying you are doing a long, hard job and you only get two $20 bills for it. However, we can make up for this by doing so in a very quick manner. Glycolysis is happening in skeletal muscles. I mean, it happens in all cells, or almost all cells, but we're particularly interested in it in muscles because that's where we need to make ATP quickly if we're going to use those muscles to do something like run away from an animal or something like that. So this is a trade-off between low yield and very rapid generation of ATP. Now, we can divide glycolysis into two sections. The first section is what we call the energy investment phase. And we're going to continue to use a money analogy here. You know, there's an old saying that to make money, you need to have money. That means you need to put some money into a bank, for instance, in order to get interest and get some profit back. Or you need to invest in a company to get a dividend on stock. So this is true here as well. We want to make ATP, but we actually have to invest ATP in the first 5 reactions. We actually lose ATP to begin with, or we would go into ATP debt, we might say, in order to make a profit of it later. The other thing we can say, and you can see it quite visually here, is that in the first 5 reactions we go from one 6-carbon molecule to 2 3-carbon molecules. We actually split a carbon-carbon bond. It's the first time we've done this in this course, and it's a different type of reaction, and we'll cover that in reaction 4. The second set of 5 reactions, if we go down to pyruvate at least, is going to be the energy dividend phase. Like I said, if we invest up front and go into debt, we hope to earn back the ATP that we've invested and then make more to make a profit. So when we say glycolysis makes 2 ATP quickly, what we mean is that it makes 2 net ATP or profit ATP in a rapid manner. The second thing we can say about the second half of glycolysis is that there is an oxidation and reduction reaction. In a previous video, I tried to sell you the idea that oxidation and reduction is going to play a huge role in metabolism. And that's true, but it only makes one appearance here in glycolysis, and that's going to be in reaction 6. That's the toughest reaction of glycolysis to understand, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So in the next set of videos, we're going to go through each of these reactions. We're going to talk about what type of reaction it is, whether there's energy input or output, and what kind of chemical transformations occur at each step. This is challenging, but we've prepared well for it, and we're ready to go on and do that. I just want to point out it's really important for us to see the whole thing all together. In fact, on some of your homeworks, we're going to be following carbons as they go through all the different intermediates in glycolysis. And when you do that, you're going to want to use this page because you can see how they all fit together in one big pathway. Okay, that's it for our overview, and it's time for us to get into the first reaction of glycolysis.